Ever find yourself watching the news and just thinking, okay, but what's the real story here?
Yeah, like there's way more going on beneath the surface.
Exactly. So today we're doing just that. We're taking a deep dive into the whole dynamic between Fox News and Donald Trump. It's something a lot of people talk about, but what's actually being said about how that relationship works?
That's the big question, isn't it? And we've got some, well, some really interesting source material to unpack here.
We do. We've
Yeah.
been looking over these excerpts from a Midas Touch YouTube video transcript, and it really gets into the arguments around Fox and Trump. So our mission, if you like, is to sort of unpack what that video argues, look at the analysis it presents, and try to understand the potential implications.
Okay, sounds good. So where do we start? The video brings up specific figures, right?
It does. It starts with Laura Ingraham, and the discussion references some pretty intense claims about her family background, specifically things said by her brother.
Right, I saw that. Her brother, Curtis Ingram, apparently described their father as having Nazi sympathies and even keeping Mein Kampf around, plus allegations of abuse, alcoholism. Pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, very heavy. And the video, well, it suggests there's a direct line between that background and how she comes across on air now.
How so? What's the connection they're making?
They characterize her on-air style as, and this is their phrase, state regime North Korea style behavior.
Wow, okay. That's quite a description. Do they give examples?
They do. One example is how she apparently handled Trump's lower poll numbers. Instead of focusing on the numbers, she shifted to his, personal happiness, saying, happy Trump is best Trump.
So sidestepping the data for a feeling. Okay.
And then there's the way she talks about major events. The video mentions her calling Watergate and January 6th hoaxes.
Hoaxes, plural.
Yeah, and framing it as part of this, nonstop campaign against Trump that she claims has been going on since, get this, 1987.
Okay, that's a long time. It weaves a very specific narrative, doesn't it?
It really does. And maybe the most striking example the video points to is a statement she made directed at migrants.
Oh, what was that?
Suggesting they should self-deport or face the possibility of being sent to concentration camps in El Salvador, using that specific term, concentration camps.
Oof. Yeah, that term carries enormous weight, and the video argues that saying things like that is basically doing Trump's policy work for him.
That's the argument presented, yeah, that she's effectively carrying out Trump policy. And it even raises this question about taxpayer money possibly funding related ads on Fox.
Which, really opens up the whole question of just how closely aligned the network's messaging is, or was, with a specific political agenda.
And that idea of alignment, that's a perfect transition, actually. It leads right into this other major point from the video's analysis, this idea of a merger between the Trump administration and Fox News.
A merger, like they became one entity almost.
That's the suggestion. And to explore this, the discussion brings in the work of Matt Gertz from Media Matters.
Media Matters. They track this stuff closely. What did Gertz find?
Well, his findings, as presented in the video, suggest really, really close ties. One stat they highlight is that in just the first 100 days of the Trump administration, top officials made, I think it was, 536 appearances on Fox News and Fox Business.
536 in 100 days.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. That's more than 5 a day on average. That's not just dropping in for an occasional interview, is it?
Doesn't seem like it. It suggests, a constant presence. Like those networks were maybe the primary place for the administration to get its message out right from the beginning.
And it wasn't just appearances, was it? The video talks about personnel moving between the two.
Exactly, the revolving door concept. The video mentions something like 22 people with Fox News backgrounds reportedly joining the Trump administration.
22. Any prominent examples?
Pete Hegseth is one they mentioned. Went from hosting Fox and Friends Weekend to a potential role, I think it was Secretary of Defense they mentioned him being considered for.
Right. So when you have people moving that easily between a media network and a government administration,
it makes it really hard to tell where one ends and the other begins, doesn't it?
Yeah. It definitely fuels that merger argument the video makes, that they were operating with maybe very similar goals, similar perspectives.
Which then prompts the comparison the video draws to state regime media.
Like in places like Russia or North Korea, where the media is basically seen as an arm of the government.
That's the parallel they draw. The idea isn't just bias. It's that the media functions almost like a tool for the ruling power.
And the video suggests this had real consequences, right? Like influencing who Trump listened to.
Yeah, that's one point. That his advisors often seem to be people who got famous mainly for, attacking the left on Fox News.
Right.
Kind of creates a feedback loop.
An echo chamber, almost.
Right. And taking a bigger view, the video argues that the Trump administration might have seen its main job not just as policymaking, but as, well, propaganda.
Propaganda aimed specifically at the Fox News audience, the Trump base.
That's the perspective presented, that the priority became spinning information for that base, keeping them energized.
And the Pam Bondi example fits here, doesn't it? The video mentioned her being on Fox News all the time while she's supposed to be running the Justice Department.
Exactly. It makes you ask, how much time was actually spent on DOJ work versus appearing on Fox? What were the priorities?
And beyond personnel and messaging, the video raises concerns about Fox News sort of normalizing certain ideas, specifically authoritarianism.
Yeah, that's a strong claim.
Huh.
The argument they make is that by doing things like, say, downplaying due process when talking about immigration, the network helps shift the public conversation, making things that might have seemed unacceptable before feel more, well, normal, undermining established legal norms.
Okay, so this brings us back to Media Matters and their role, which the video also discusses. They're tracking all this, right?
Right. They're monitoring Fox, other online spaces, trying to see where these narratives start and how they spread.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the mechanics of it all.
Which is fascinating work. But the video also mentions a challenge they face.
Yeah. Getting this analysis out to a broader audience. There's a suggestion that maybe mainstream media outlets are sometimes hesitant to cover this stuff too deeply.
Why? Fear of backlash.
That's the implication mentioned in the video. Fear of retaliation, perhaps, which, if true, says something about the power dynamics in the media landscape. Potential self-censorship, even?
So certain stories might get amplified while critical analysis gets sidelined.
The video gives an example. A Republican hearing, supposedly about fencing, getting totally sidetracked by a Fox News story about a transgender fencer.
Even though the witness apparently said their organization didn't even get federal funding?
Right. It shows how a specific narrative pushed by one outlet can just take over the conversation, regardless of the facts or relevance.
And this connects to the final concern Matt Gertz raises in the video, right? About real-world policy.
Exactly. He worries that potentially huge policy debates, like possible Republican cuts to Medicaid to fund tax cuts for the wealthy, aren't getting the attention they need.
Because the media oxygen is being taken up by these other, often more sensational narratives pushed on platforms like Fox.
Precisely. So, wrapping up our deep dive today, we've really walked through the arguments presented in that Midas Touch video transcript, this idea of a deeply intertwined relationship between Fox News and the Trump administration.
Yeah, looking at the rhetoric used by hosts like Ingram, the sheer volume of administration appearances, that whole revolving door phenomenon.
And the potential implications.
Yeah.
The focus on the base, the normalizing effect, and how it might overshadow crucial policy discussions.
The analysis from the video really paints this picture of a media ecosystem where that line between, reporting the news and actively pushing a political agenda seems incredibly blurred.
It definitely raises big questions about media independence and how it shapes what we all understand about the world. So maybe a final thought for you listening. Thinking about everything we've unpacked today, based on this analysis, how might this kind of really close media-politics relationship affect the information you see? And what does it mean for the bigger political picture? It's definitely something to think about, is, the sources you trust and why.